Okay, on this coming Erev Shabbos is Pesach Sheni.
Shabbos?
I mean Erev Shabbos. Yudalit is Erev Shabbos. This year is exactly like it was the year of Yitzias Mitzrayim. That Shabbos Agadol was literally Shabbos Agadol. It was 4 days before Pesach. Pesach was on Wednesday, Tuesday night, and now Pesach Sheni comes out on Erev Shabbos. Exactly the way it was at the time of Yitzias Mitzrayim, and we'll see what that means. So, Be'etzem, in strict halacha, if you learn Shulchan Aruch, you don't find anything about Pesach Sheni. The only shaila is whether to say Tachnun, when not to say Tachnun, only on the day. What about on Erev Pesach Sheni? I'm not getting involved in halacha. It's not a real yontif. Not a real yontif. The Hasidim make a whole big thing about it, and they eat matzahs. The Chazon Ish and also my Rebbe,
Wait, that's not. We shouldn't do. It's not.
I didn't say you shouldn't do it.
It's not minhag Yisrael.
They say a zecher that they brought the korban Pesach, and al matzahs morim yakluhu. We don't have the korban Pesach. You don't have the Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni is a tashlumin for the first people who couldn't bring the first Pesach, and but since they had matzahs, so you eat matzahs on Pesach Sheni. The question is, this is the minhagim of the Hasidim. According to the Litvaks,
there's nothing. There's no Pesach Sheni. There's nothing.
There's nothing. Right.
Like Haomer doesn't exist.
I didn't say it doesn't exist. It's brought down in the Ramah. It's a day that it's not explained what the day of Lag BaOmer is. I'm not here to give a share on Lag BaOmer, but it's not explained in halacha or anywhere. It just says Lag BaOmer is the day you don't say Tachnun. It doesn't say why. Then everybody kids it with Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, or the Magefa of Rabbi Akiva, the Talmid of Rabbi Akiva stopped on that day. It's not brought down Lag BaOmer, but it says there is something there that we don't. And the minhag is we stop our minhag. There's a machlekes in minhag of Lag BaOmer. Which minhag do you have? Do you have the second minhag or the first minhag? Most people in Eretz Yisrael the first minhag, and it stops at Lag BaOmer. In Chutz La'aretz, everybody's got the second minhag that it starts at Rosh Chodesh Iyar and continues until Gimel Yomim into Gimel Sivan. I'm not getting involved in Lag BaOmer. Pesach Sheni is not brought down at all, except the Shaila saying there's machlekes. Whether to say Tachnun, not say Tachnun. The Litvaks, the Chazon Ish, and my Rebbe, Rav Sheinberg, they asked him, should you eat matzahs? He says, why? Why? He asked the Hasidim, everybody eats matzahs. Everybody eats matzahs. Why not?
Until today, I thought everyone ate matzahs. I never heard it. Totally finished to me.
Yeah. So
fire, not good things. You don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Three minhagim. So the minhag of most of the Hasidim have the minhag that they eat matzahs in the afternoon. Okay, in the afternoon. Then they ask the kasha. But if you're eating matzahs, it should be on Tesvav at night. Why are you eating on Yudalit in the afternoon? No, I said the zecher of the korban Pesach, but we don't have the korban Pesach, so therefore we eat the matzahs, zecher of the korban Pesach. But if it's zecher of the matzahs that you ate, so you should be at night. So Friday night, you should be eating matzahs. Make your lechem mishnah on matzahs. According to
why is Pesach Sheni Yudal and not Tesvav?
It's Yudal. No, they brought the korban Yudal and they ate it. Like regular Pesach was on Yudal. Regular Pesach is they brought the korban Yudal, and then we eat the matzahs at night.
Pesach Sheni is Friday?
Pesach Sheni is Friday.
Why is it Yudal and not Tesvav?
30 days.
I told you.
That's
30 days from the first
Pesach. They brought the
Pesach.
korban on Yudal and they ate it next.
Yeah. So according to that, you should be eating, if you're going to eat matzahs, so they eat matzahs on Friday afternoon. There's another shayla, can you have a suda on Friday afternoon? I'm not getting involved in that, but they have to ask the Hasidus Shapoiskim. I don't know. So they eat the matzah Friday on the afternoon of Yudalid, or if you want to be machmir and eat the matzahs at the Suda Shabbos.
Make early Shabbos if you saw all your own.
Yeah. So there's a very big chiddush in Yaakov Emden. Yaakov Emden has a very, very big chiddush. In Yaakov Emden's
This is huge stuff. I literally
You can't get
had no idea
away.
this is
You
true.
can't get away.
I really thought you had to eat matzah.
like Rav Shaimek said, why? It doesn't say
It's
anything.
Minhag Yisrael. That's what he said.
One minute Yisrael. Look at the Hasidim that he
And on the other
quotes.
page it said.
Look at the Hasidim he quotes. I've
Yeah,
never
on the
heard of
other
these
page-
rabbis.
On the other page it says, but Lita you don't do it.
No, but read the rabbis.
Shaimek-
Read the rabbis. Turn it over.
Minhag Yisrael.
Turn it over and read the rabbis. And I never heard of these rabbis. It doesn't say that Bell's a rebbe. It doesn't say that Simon's a rebbe. It says, I don't know. Whatever.
That you don't know these rabbis doesn't mean they don't exist.
Gotta get better PR. The YouTube channel.
You know, Rabbi, last week you quoted, not last week, whenever it was, last time I was here, you quoted Rabbi Lev. So he used to say,
last
he used to say, on Pesach Sheni, nobody should go to Yerushalayim, because then if you go to Yerushalayim, there's a sort of a chiyuv, which you might have to eat matzah. If you don't, then you don't.
Someone told me that Rav Shaimer used to go to Chutz La'aretz every Pesach. He was always he would go to Lawrence. He would go to his because he would had a
his
child
nephew.
baby.
Not because he
That's
had
not true. That's
No. He went to fundraise. It was a good time to fundraise. It wasn't Bittul Torah because he wasn't giving shirim. It was Bein Zmanim. It was a long Bein Zmanim, a whole month. So he had. It was an opportune time to go fundraise and not have Bittul Torah.
This is
That's
all
all.
Kedushim.
No, in his later years when it got too hard for him to travel,
He didn't anymore.
he didn't anymore. He stayed. Then he went to the Kaisel as much as he could.
He did.
He went to the Kaisel, to Aliyah Regel.
He would.
Yeah. No. That's nonsense. Anyway, so Yaakov Emden has a very, very big chiddush. Listen, Rabbi Isai. Rabbi Yaakov Emden has a very big chiddush. He says, what's the Indian of eating matzah on Pesach Sheni? What's the Indian of eating matzah on Pesach Sheni? It says, Min Shemayim. He says, Niskala li Min Shemayim. Yeah, this is Yaakov Emden. He says, I had a Gilui Min Shemayim. It's pretty good. Yeah. Why they eat matzah? Why would they convey a Pesach Sheni on this day? To eat matzah on this day? Because the charora that they took out of Mitzrayim, that was the last day they got it. That it lasted, and therefore it says they took matzahs out of Mitzrayim. There's a very, very
They
big
got
difference.
man. The man started afterwards.
The man started on Tez Zayin, on Sunday. What happened? If you look at it,
Design me a month later.
ye-
A month later, or
a month later, it's
or-
before Rashi brings down the Chazal.
This is the whole month, 30.
So people eat a matzah all year round.
Vayofu es habetzik, as they were leaving, Vayisu b'nei Yisrael miram Sukkot, so they were leaving, they were traveling, they were moving. 3 million people on the move, right? 3 million people on the move, yeah? You know the cheshbon of 3 million, 600,000, then the women is another 600,000, and the kids. So so you're already holding by 2.5 million, and there's also Erev Rav, Hagavarim, kids.
It's like you say for there's 10,000 families, that means it's 100,000 people.
Yeah, right. V'yofu es ha-betzak, and as they were leaving, they were baking the betzik. Where were they baking it? They were baking, as they were leaving, they were baking the betzik. Asher hotziu mi Mitzrayim. Where were they baking it?
For the sun, no? They put it on
In the sun. They put it on their
shoulders.
shoulders, or they put it on their heads, like the Arabs do, like carrying things on their head, and it baked in the sun. It didn't sound like very appetizing matzah. But anyway, they baked ugos matzah, kilo chametz, and it wasn't chametz. They had to make sure it wasn't chametz. Yeah. Ki goshim Mitzrayim below yachol ismameya.
So again, so what does the Yaakov Emily say?
That was when the.
Oh, that was the day or a month later. That was there.
So they were baking the. I'm looking for a. It says Vayochel Misha Roisam. Anyway, I don't see that here. Anyway, so they were baking. They were baking the matzahs, and that's what they took out. Okay, so what happened? So it says that after Kriyas Yamsuf, they went from Yamsuf, 3 days without water. They came to Morah, and there was no water to drink. Vayilonu ha'am. So the Meforshim, the Orach Chaim and the other Meforshim, Medayik, the Orach Chaim especially. Vayilonu ha'am al Moshe. Whenever it says ha'am, it means the Erev Rav. It didn't say Bnei Yisrael. So when they didn't have water, so the Erev Rav complained. What are we supposed to drink? Right? So they...
Lefties.
Right? So then Moshe Rabbeinu, he davened, the Kodesh Baruch Hu showed him a certain tree, he threw the tree in, and the bitter tree made the bitter water into sweet water, and that was Morah, and they had plenty of water. Now, that means plenty water for 3 million people. That was a lake. That was a lake. It was a lot of water.
And
That-
animals.
Huh?
And animals.
And all the animals, right? They had a lot of animals. They had the Jews when they left. They were millionaires. Besides the money that
Why
they got
did they have
from.
meat if so? Why didn't... What happened to the meat? לא, שמצאו את הסלב.
Good.
Oh, that's later.
No. He's asking good. I can't answer you now. He's asking very good. Why are they complaining about meat? I'm not. They had
We're
so
allowed
much
to eat
meat.
it then?
Sure. I can't answer you. But it says they were millionaires because they became millionaires at Dam, because they were charging $1,000 a glass of water. So at Dam they became millionaires. I mean, like the Egyptians had to fork it out because, like, you want to drink water, you got to shell it out. The only way. So they were millionaires already.
With an extra.
So-
With an extra.
Startups. They were doing startups.
So it says, Vayisu me'elim. They came from Elim, where they had all the springs and it's a wonderful place. They came, everybody, El Midbar Sin,
With carbon dioxide.
and the pasuk specifically explains, B'chamisha Asar Yom L'Chodesh Hasheni. So it was at 15th day of Iyur, which that year was Shabbos. Let's say Sefiras Mitzrayim. Vayilonu kol adas b'nei Yisrael al Moshe al Aaron b'midbar. They say, now over here it says Vayilonu kol adas b'nei Yisrael. Everybody got upset. There's nothing to eat. What do you mean there's nothing to eat? What do you mean there's nothing to eat? It says that the matzah that they took out of Mitzrayim, that they baked on the head, right? They were baking the matzahs as they were going out. So that matzah
Ran out.
stayed. They were able to eat that matzah. I mean, think of a bite a day. And it was enough to sustain them. And they for 30 days. So the last time, Yaakov Emden, the last day that they were able to eat the matzah, the last bit of matzah that they had was on Erev Shabbos on Yud Dalid. And they had 2 pieces of matzah, one for the morning meal and one for the night meal, the night of Tesvav. That's when the matzah stopped. So on Tesvav, there's a machlokes in the Meforshim. I looked it up, and you look in the Chumash. So the different Meforshim, whether or not the matzah, a piece of matzah lasted for the morning of Tesvav. Some people say no, and according to Yaakov Emden, no. It was only on the night of Tesvav. So Friday night meal they had matzah, and the morning meal they had no matzah. And everybody complained. Kol b'nei Yisrael, lo am. Kol b'nei Yisrael, they complained. But they didn't say, what are we going to eat? They said, oh, if we had only died. Now we're here in the desert, and we have all the food ran out. We're going, right? It's a terrible, dying of hunger is a terrible, terrible torture. If only we had died biyad Hashem be'eretz Yisrael. When? During 3 days of darkness. If only we had been of those people who died in the 3 days of darkness. Person is dead, not complaining anymore. Oh, if only we had died then. Why do we have to now die of a terrible hunger? Hunger is a terrible. And we remember this. We were sitting on the Sira Basar and Lechem L'Soiva, and now you took us out of Mitzrayim to kill us in the Midbar. That was fast. I mean, like they panicked because they ran out of food. Their provisions ran out, but they just had a mess. They ate matzah. They say you take a box.
Eat matzah for 30 days, not a mess. We people eat matzah for 2 years. What the mess?
How much matzah did they take out? They were. This is the shirayim. This is the shirayim of this is the shirayim. It wasn't a big box, 5 kilo of matzah. It was whatever it was 2 kilo matzahs. How much matzah did they have that
they ate only matzah?
It says they only had matzah.
No, only matzah.
They're complaining now. They ran out of food. So obviously they were eating the. So they were eating this miracle matzah for 30 days, and now they're complaining. And now Hashem said, "Hineni mamter." This is when Hineni mamter lechem lechem min hashamayim. I'm going to rain down bread min hashamayim. What? Hashem was upset with them. Why are you complaining? But he said, now I'm going to rain down. He didn't do it automatically. He waited for them. So they asked the kasha, well, they panicked that they were right. No. Ask. Mm-hmm. Don't complain. Don't complain. Say, okay, Moshe, we came, we trust in Hashem, daven to Hashem, that he should do something, right? And then maybe even a bigger miracle would have happened. But because they complained, so now they listen to this miracle. And right, and then the whole parsha of Mann that we read. If you, like I told you, it's a school to read the parsha of Mann every day, right? And you're going to get basal lecha be'erev, and he says then you're going to have the slav that night. That night, Moitzi Shabbos. The Slav came, so they had Melova Malka.
They had the Slav and the Mann at the same time?
No, and then in the morning of Tez Zayin, all of a sudden they woke up in the morning and there's...
I thought the Slav came after the Mann. They were.
There was a different Maisa. There was a different Maisa. They got
already fed up with the Mann. They wanted to
we're fed Lechem Lokel. That was a different. They were fed up with the Mann.
They had Slav before the Mann.
The first night they had Slav.
Quail?
Quail. Partridge. Good partridge.
But Tal Haslav at Chasis Hamach, they had so for Motzi Shabbos they had. So he says, why is Yud Dalid Pesach Sheni? Because this is the last day that they had the matzah that they took out of Mitzrayim. And in the morning it stopped. And therefore, it was lasted till then. And so this same day, so Tes Vav at night, Friday night, they still had matzah and chometz and matzah. They're still allowed to have chometz and matzah. I don't know where they had chometz from, but they're allowed to have chometz and matzah. And therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu was korveya that this day, Yud Daled, should be Pesach Sheni, because. So we see something from here. Something that happened, the day, the hashpor of each day, of each incident, is a hashpor lo netzach, because a year later was Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni wasn't until a year later. This wasn't Pesach Sheni. But since on this day was chometz and matzah together, it was the last day of the matzah, therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu made this day Pesach Sheni.
That's a rag of Emden.
Yaakov Emden. He said, "Niskalali min hashamayim."
Otherwise, and the other.
The other says because they're going to pay to the Korban Pesach.
There's no mucker for it.
No mucker for it. No, yeah. But he says there is a mucker for it.
no mocker that it's a zeicher to Korban Sheni.
But he said there's a hashpah, so it's a zeicher of the last day they ate this matzah. The last day they ate this matzah. So we see that the Mann was this time of year. Now, what is the Indian of the Mann? What is the Indian of the Mann? And why is the Indian of the Mann this time of year? We are now in the middle of Sefiras Haomer. We're now in the middle of Sefiras Haomer. The Mann is connected to the Omer. How is the Mann connected to the Omer? Because there's a medrash. The medrash says, Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu to Moshe, go tell Bnei Yisrael, when I gave you the Mann, I gave you each person an Omer. An Omer is the Shir Challah. So figure out a Shir Challah, according to Rav Chaim Noah, is a kilo 800 or 700, whatever. But yeah, according to the Chazon Ish, it's 2.25 kilo. That's 2 kilo. Is Shir Challah. That's an Omer. And you split it up, half in the morning and half at night. That's a big Suda. Everybody got that. Everybody had enough Mann to have a Shir Omer every day. Half in the morning and half in the evening.
For family or for a person?
Person.
For person.
Look at it says person's got more kids. He collected more. Person had less kids, he collected less. Right? I gave everybody the Shir Omer. You're gonna give, but I give everybody Shir Omer. When you give to me, you're gonna give me just one Omer. When you give to me, you're gonna give me one Omer. That's why it's called the Omer. Right? It's the Omer, the Korban Omer that we bring of Sa'irin on Tes Zayin. It's called the Omer. Omer is a midah. It's an amount. It's not a noun, but it's turned into a noun as the Omer. It was the Korban Omer because that's the amount of barley that they had in this Korban Mincha of the Omer. So you're going to give me, I gave you, everybody each 3 million Omers, and you're just going to give me one Omer. What's the connection? What's the connection? What's shot in this medrash? What is the Korban Omer? First of all, we do Sefiras Haomer. Today we don't have the Korban Omer, we do Sefiras Haomer. So there's a big machlekes in the Poskim where the Sefiras Haomer Bisman is the Eraisa, the Rabbanan. The Rambam holds the Eraisa, Rov Poskim holds it's only the Rabbanan, because that's the whole shaila is Sefiras Haomer attached to the Korban Omer. Most of the Poskim say the Bisman is Sefiras Haomer is the Rabbanan because it is attached to Korban Omer. When you have the Korban Omer, then you do Sefiras Haomer. What's the connection? Why are you calling the Sefiras Haomer? It's Sefiras of Tes Zayin. Call it Sefiras Tes Zayin. Or Sefiras Matan Torah. Why is it calling Sefiras Haomer? Huh? It happens to be the day of the Omer. I mean, like, my kesher. As they say in Hebrew, my kesher. What's the Indian of the Omer? So the Chinuch says the Indian of the Omer is Hakoros HaTov. It's springtime. And in springtime is a time of renewal. That's when the earth, the ground, and all of nature is coming out of its sleep of the winter. And you see, that's why we do Birchas Alanis at this time, because this is when everything's beginning to flower. And so this is the time that we're planting, and we're just planted, and it's going to harvest soon, especially the Chameshes Minim, the wheat crop is going to be harvested very soon. So it's a time of renewal that we should be nisbainin. So Zogdi, the Sefer Chinuch, is a chesed gadol that a Kodesh Baruch Hu create a cycle of renewal. Don't take it for granted. I mean, we could be living on Mars where it's a dead planet. We live on a wonderful planet, And at this time of the year in spring, it's a renewal. Kodesh Baruch Hu created a cycle of renewal and is mechadish each year new crops for us to eat. Therefore, we have to bring a korban saying thank you, that we recognize the wonderful chesed that a Kodesh Baruch Hu does, Shenakov of Kodesh Baruch Hu Mimenu, and we should remember the chesed and the tuvo hagadol that he did before. Say thank you like a bracha before you can't eat without a bracha. You can't partake of the new crop until you say thank you. So you have to bring the korban Haomer before you partake of the new crop of wheat. And that's the din of Chodesh. Now it's forgotten about because it's so pretty much controlled by the kashrus organizations. It depends whether you live in America. The OU doesn't, but in Israel they do. There was a forgotten halacha because it was whatever. I won't go into the history of Chodesh, but crops which were planted after Tezayin Nisan is Chodesh, and you can't eat from it until the next year, around September, until the day of the Haomer, the day of the Hakravas Haomer, and around September, October, that's when you have to start checking the Cheerios to see if it's from what the date of the oats in the Cheerios. Right? If it comes from Manchester, if it's got a Manchester hechsher, you're okay. If it has an American hechsher, so the OU is not makbid on Chodesh, so then you have to look at the dates.
Well, there's only things that came from Eretz Yisrael. The grew in Eretz Yisrael.
No. That's a kula that they did in Europe to take one opinion, a das yochid, because it was so impossible for them to keep this halacha, so they said we'll be soymach on das yochid. Rav Poskin says it's worldwide. It's international. So
why are you not makbid on Chodesh?
Because it was hard in those days. When Moshe was kaveya his psak, it was very, very difficult in those days. So therefore, he took the, once it became to know. They didn't have the means to know or to figure it out, or they weren't. It was very, very hard to figure out and very hard to be makbid on it.
They had faster growing wheat as well. It was 90-day wheat.
So you have to look at the history of Chodesh. This history of Chodesh, and the OU has a policy since once Rav Moshe made a psak, so they as stability in the OU, they continue the psak and they don't change the psak. If you want to be machmir, so then you have other kashrus organizations that will tell you what's going on. Herman Zatzal he made an organization about Chodesh, and he gives the list and the times, and he puts out a booklet every year. Anyway, so what? It's no gate of beer. Make sure the beer is not Chodesh, because the question where they're getting the beer from. The European beer. I don't know. You have to. I don't drink beer, so I don't check it out. But you have to check it out. Okay, so if it's got a Rabbanut hechsher, the Rabbanut is makbid. The Rabbanut is makbid shouldn't be Chodesh. But if they have imports from America or from other countries with an outside hechsher, so they are not necessarily makbid on Chodesh, and then you would have to
starting from September.
Around September, October, that's when it starts hitting the market.
For beer,
it's a Metzias. It's a Metzias that it hits the market. The crop, the Chodesh crop hits the market around September, October.
Beer has. You're just talking about cheers and everything.
Anything which is chameshus minim. Noodles,
It's anything harvested after what date?
After Pesach.
After Pesach.
Was planted after Pesach.
Oh, planted after Pesach.
Planted after
Not
Pesach.
harvested.
If it's right.
Oh.
And I'm not giving a shir on Chodesh right now, but
Chodesh also my Torah.
Go check it out.
So that's the Indian of Chodesh. So Chodesh is say thank you before you eat the new crop.
That's why the new model.
What does it have to do with Sefiras Haomer?
Sefer Achinuch said this?
Sefer Achinuch, yes. What does it have to do with Sefiras Haomer? Now Sefiras Haomer, the Chinuch says a totally different shot. Now why is it attached to the Korban Haomer? We'll have to explain. But he says this is a day that we are now awaiting Matan Torah. Because we're getting ready for Shavuos. Shavuos is coming. Shavuos is the day we became a nation. We got the most wonderful present that HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us, the Torah, and that we have to recognize the greatness of Torah. Torah makes us a nation. This is Rav Sadia Gaon. This is what we don't realize. We have to realize we may not be Talmidei Chachamim. We may not be. You're sitting here in the office the whole day. You're not sitting and learning. But you have to realize that the greatness of Torah. We're Jews. We follow the Torah. Every time we do a mitzvah, we're following the Torah. That's Kabbalas HaTorah. Besides the fact that I'll have to give you a shmooze and give you a tongue lashing about kaviyas itim l'Torah every day. You should all have some sort of kaviyas itim l'Torah. That's a different shmooze. But Torah makes us a nation. Why are we different than anybody? What gives us our life force? How are the Jews different? What's kept us as a nation for 3,000 years? No other nation can say that. 3,000 years we have a continuous, without a hefsek, tradition that is continued. This is the McCarthy just said it in the Knesset the other day. 3,000 years you Jews have been here. Like we should be proud of it. I don't know. He doesn't understand who the Chilonim are. I mean, they've lost it. They've made the hefsek. They've made the break. And they have nothing, right? So all they can do is complain. They have nothing positive to do. We have that video.
Complaining also is also a mitzvah. There's a smach from Torah.
You don't know, right? But we have something keeping us together. The Torah keeps us together. It keeps us as a nation. It makes each person into a yid. So we want to show that we are anxious. We want to get to the day of Kabbalas HaTorah. So again, we see another time. Just like we saw by Yaakov Emner says, whatever happened then, so the hashbah of that day continues throughout the generations. So also, Kabbalas HaTorah, it happened once, 3,000 years ago. No, every year the hashbah of that day of Kabbalas HaTorah comes down, and we are makabel the Torah. We get that hashbah of Kabbalas HaTorah. We'll have to discuss what exactly that means, Kabbalas HaTorah, but makes us into a yid, as Israel Tauber says. It's the marriage of Klal Yisrael to Kodesh Baruch Hu. It was the chuppah. Pesach was the erisin, the engagement party, where Kodesh Baruch Hu made the, he engaged, he made the erisin, he did the kedushin, and took us as a right. He took us as his potential wife at Pesach. He took us out, and then on Shavuos, that was the actual marriage, and we became Yidden. So it's a marriage. It's a devekis between Klal Yisrael and Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's when we gained the Kodesh Baruch Hu. We gained the kedusha of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So we're anxious to come to that day, so we count. When is it going to happen? 1, 2, 3. They asked the kasha why you should be counting down, not counting up. But anyway, that's not for me. But we're counting in anxiety. We're waiting. When are we going to get to that time? Then he says, what does it have to do with Korban Omer? So the Chinuch says like this. Okay, I just quoted you the famous part of the Chinuch, which all the Rosh Yeshivas quote. It's counting up to Kabbalas HaTorah. Now I'll quote you the second half of the Chinuch, which they don't quote. Al-Kain Huskan Limnos the Minyan, from what we did on that day of Tes Zayin. On Tes Zayin, what happened on that day? The Korban HaNichbud is a zecher that we believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in his hashgacha on Bnei Adam, and he wants to provide sustenance and provisions for them, and is mechadis them each year a new crop, and that is what the Korban Omer is. So the Korban Omer shows our emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You believe it's going to happen, and you thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for it. So it's the emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So again, what's this connection with Matan Torah? What's the connection with Matan Torah? So many times I've told you the Gra the famous scroll. What is Torah? Torah is a means of getting betachin. People think that betachin is a means of getting Torah. If you have betachin, so then you don't have to spend so much time working, which is true, and then you can have more time for learning. That's also true. But that's not the reason for, that's not the real order. The real order is the Ika Nesinas HaTorah Li Yisroel. Why did he give Torah to Klal Yisrael? In order that we should have betachon, we should be dovik. B'dovku boy. How would we dovku boy? If Shavuos is the Nesuin, is the chuppah, Kofaleim Har Kagigas, he made a chuppah. If Shavuos is the chuppah, so what does it mean? Is that we are married to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Dovik, that we should put our betachin in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Iker HaKoil is betachin, and that's the klal kol ha-mitzvahs. And this is the amazing. This is the kesher between everything that's going on. And I want to say a shtickle chiddush here. It says when they left Klal Yisrael left Mitzrayim, Zacharti lo chesed neurayach. I remember the chesed of neurayach. Avos kulu l'sayach. You lechtech acharai b'midbar. You went after me in the midbar. Klal Yisrael didn't know where they're going, and they knew what there was. It's a desert out there, but they followed Moshe Rabbeinu into the desert. And I saw in one of the Meforshim, they were, like I said, they were millionaires, and they had Son Ubakar, they had carriages and wagons. Now, when you go on a trip for a month, you pack the trunk. You pack the trunk. It's mamish. You can't even see it out the back window because everything is packed high with provisions. Because you're going away for a month, right? The car is too small, so you hire a station wagon with a giant trunk, and it's packed high, and you got provisions and enough to eat. You're going away for a week, so it's enough to pack a whole car. And they're going away for a month. They had to pack a wagon, a truck. And what they take with them? A little bit of the matzah that they baked the night before. On Pesach, they baked matzah to eat at the Seder. And whatever, right? And then they knew that they were leaving, so they started baking in the morning a little bit, and they had the dough, and then they had to run out because Mitzrayim was pushing them out, and they're baking the matzah on in the sun, and that matzah is all they took with them, and they ate it. They had a miracle for 30 days because the Kodesh Baruch Hu wanted to show them, now is the time I'm making you into a people. You were nice to me. You went after me, but midbar, you had betachin in me. I'm going to recompense, and I'm going to give you a miracle. You're going to eat the matzah for 30 days. And they saw that miracle because he wanted to get them to get full betachin. But it lasts for 30 days. Then comes the day, 30 days later, and it stopped, and they panicked. And they complained, like, Kindle, you don't have betachin. All right, you don't have betachin. You know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to do some emergency operation over here. He gave them the Mann. The Mann was to give them betachin, that they should have a Emunah Kodesh Baruch Hu, and that is the preparation for Torah, because the whole purpose of Kabbalah of Torah is betachin. What did he do? He gave them the Mann. I want you to think about this. How much Mann did he give? So it says that everybody had an Haomer. So I used to think, so everybody had an Haomer. So he had 3 million Omrim falling. What was the Mann? The Mann was like sleet. Was like snow. It was white little pellets. It says it was white. The pasuk says it was white, It was little tiny pellets. It was mamtil lechem in Shemayim. It fell down from Shemayim, right? And so the people gathered up this snow, this white snow, this white frost. It was like a frost on the ground. So I used to think that Hakadosh Baruch Hu sent down for everybody an Omer, and this family had more Omer in the front yard, and this family had less Omer in the front yard according to how many people there were. That's what I thought. Along comes the Alkut Shemaini. And the Yalkut Shemaini says, Rabbi Yehuda Levi says, Min Shemayim Yored Li Yisrael B'chol Yom, 2,000 years worth of Mann. It says they had 60 amas. 60 amas. That's 30 meters. They had mountains of this snow all around the camp. Mountains of this snow. Just go, take your sack, fill it up, go home, and you got your supply for the day.
There's a medrash that the distance of the snow was everyone according to his emunah.
Everybody, that depends where everybody according to his emunah where he had to go. If did he get a little mound, a big mound on his front yard, on his front doorstep? And the next guy didn't, because he didn't have a moon, he didn't, so he had to go out. He had to go out.
What do you think opposite? The more moon, the more you have to walk, the less the moon out. It's like,
less. No.
The more convenient is this right next door?
No, it's according to how much a moon you had. Because Baruch was showing them if you don't have a moon, it was embarrassing not to have a moon. I mean, everybody's watching the guy walk, and like, I got mine in front door. I see who you are.
Sign the newspaper. You get it to your door. You got to go down to the newsagent to buy it.
Camped a little bit far away from the camp.
Yeah, but
I'm only taking the dog for a walk.
But they said it's mountains. It was mountains. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, the Talmidim asked Shimon Bar Yochai, why did he have to do this every day? He did it every day. It says, and when did it fall? It fell at night. It says it fell at night, and they woke up in the morning, and there's the grocery delivery, at the front door if you're lucky. They had the grocery delivery right at the front door. You didn't have to, right there. Yeah. But then it said you had to go out and get it. At least you have to do that. You have to do a little bit of shtadlus. You have to go out and get it. Because it says by 10 o'clock in the morning, it melted. When the day became warm, the Gemara in Brachas declares, what was it, 9 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock in the morning? Anyway, but by 10 o'clock in the morning, it all melted. Big mountains of mud and snow. And by 10 o'clock in the morning, the whole thing melted.
Did you eat it by then, or the stuff that
it was gone? Oh, so whatever you gathered, you gathered. Besides the nest of, even if you brought home a big sackful, when you walked into your home, you had exactly one omer per person. And if you walked in with, I'm lazy. So you walked out with a little sandwich bag, and you put a couple of grains of mun in your sandwich bag, and you walked home. You had an omer of mun for each person. Another miracle. That's what it says.
Is the lesson?
Amar lo yamit, v'yamit lo yarbe.
So is the lesson to collect little and just trust Hashem to get the whole amount?
If you really had, why not? Sure. Why do we have to work so hard?
Yeah, but you had to have that.
You have to have the amount.
It didn't
Listen.
If you see mountains of mud everywhere.
You're saying it didn't work no matter what.
It worked.
But you can't.
And whatever you, and if you left over, you said, I'm afraid what's going to be tomorrow.
Wormy.
Right? So by the next day it was wormy. Didn't melt, got wormy. There was a school in the house that didn't melt. Got wormy. Outside it melted. It's amazing. What was going on over here?
Yeah. People
So
that
they-
woke up late for his Mann Krishma, they didn't get anything.
If you miss my
Teenagers, gone.
Go to your neighbor.
What about you?
So they asked Shimon Bar Yochai. So why did he have to do this every day? Every day they had to go out, and every day they wound up in the house with enough mun, right? and then it melted. So just leave it there. Let him have the mountains of Mann for a year, right? Because it's like the famous story with the father and the son the father, he gave his son a daily allowance. No, the father gave his son a yearly allowance, and the son didn't show up for his father except on the day when he was supposed to get his allowance. And the father said, "This can't go on. This can't go on." So then he sent the kid an envelope, and it only had 1 day's allowance. So then the kid showed up the next day and says, "There wasn't that much money in the envelope. Oh, here's another envelope." Oh, now you're going to come every day. If a Kodesh Baruch Hu would be nice to you, and you'd strike it rich and with the lotto, right? Whatever it is, in America it's up to $1 billion. I don't know what it is over here, the lottery.
100 shekel.
Right? If you would win the lottery, like a $1 billion lottery, I don't recommend it. So the guy just won, and he had to hire 3 bodyguards, permanent, 24/7. So if you would win the lottery, you forget about a Kodesh Baruch Hu. You don't need him anymore. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends you Dvar Yom B'Yomo, so that every day you're afraid that maybe tomorrow I'm not going to have, and I don't know what's going to be with my kids, and your wife is going to yell at you. There's that we don't have the Cheerios the next morning. There's that I can't buy Shabbos. So every day you have to daven. So every day you have to daven because you're worried about ma nochel tomorrow. That's the nature of a person. So Kodesh Baruch Hu does not give you that one big zetz. He won't give you that one big zetz for your own benefit. That you should retain your relationship with him. The people who win the lottery, they forget everything. They forget the human beings.
No friends anymore.
Right? They become big shots, and they forget their yidden. That's what happened in Europe. They became very big rich people, right? And then they threw off the I don't need the religion anymore. I got my money. I got my bank account. I don't need him. They don't realize he's the one who gave it to you. Keep on thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? So why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu have to make it melt? Why did he have to give them so much? He gave them mountains worth of Mann every day. He wanted to show them, this is what we don't believe, we don't have a moon in this. If a Kodesh Baruch Hu wanted, he can give us 2,000 years worth of parnasa in one night. Overnight you can make 2,000 years worth of parnasa. Couple of $1 billion, $1 trillion. You could make in this, all of a sudden the stock market or whatever it is, something happened, you press the button and Bitcoin, and you made $3 trillion in one night, and you're set. He could do it. So he's rained down these mountains of Mann, according to the Alkut Shemaini,
To show that it's worth having.
to show that it's possible for him to do it.
And that's why.
And then he melted it to show that don't lose your connection to me. Every day you have to be worried. I'm going to make it melt. You're going to lose. You're going to gain your $3 billion, and then it's going to melt away by 10 o'clock in the morning because you miss chakras, right? And you got to come daven. You got to daven every day, and you got to have a betochen and a Kodesh Baruch Hu every day. If you have betochen, you won't lose out. If you don't have betochen, then like Dosan ve'Aviram, right? They got wormy, and they left over, and it got wormy. They're always pulling shtick. They were pulling shtick. Yeah, they're always pulling shtick. So that's the lesson of the Mann. That's the lesson of the Mann. Lesson of the Mann is Kodesh Baruch Hu, and that's the preparation for Matan Torah. The preparation for Matan Torah is betochen, to remember this going. To remember this going. That the purpose of Torah is that we should have betochen.
We see here the opposite. Torah came afterwards.
Huh?
The preparation of bitachon in order to get.
Because since Torah creates betochen, Torah leads to betochen, and betochen leads to Torah. It's both true. But he wanted them to have that full emunah. They were lacking in the emunah. They complained after they had that miracle of the matzahs, and you're lacking that. They panicked. Okay, so he had to do a fast, emergency operation on them, emergency tipul, and he gave them a zetz of the Mann. Now it's a couple of weeks. It's the halfway mark between Pesach and Shavuos. So halfway there, so we needed. He brought down the Mann, and now we're prepared. With that gave them the emunah that they were ready to be dovek in the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So we had. I told you several times already. We talked about nishmas, and so it says in nishmas, Adheinu azarunu rachamech v'lo azavunu chasadecha v'atachenu Hashem Elokeinu lenetzach. So the Gra explains this pasuk. The way to gain amuna and betochen is look at the past. You're all businessmen.
Yeah.
You've seen B'nai Torah businessmen, B'nai Torah. You've seen, you made it till now. Somehow or other, you made it. Some weeks are better, some weeks are less, but somehow or other, you've had issues. You bought your house, you bought your apartment, or you found money to rent the apartment. You have a car. Somehow or other, you paid off the car. You're able to pay for your bills. You're able to pay your mashkanta. Somehow or other, it's hard. Some months are a little bit harder. Some months are a little bit easier. But in general, adheinu azarunu rachamecha, below azavunu chasadecha, v'atechenu Hashem Elokeinu. So therefore, we know. Al titchenu, I know. That's what the going says pshat. I look at my past. You took care of me until now. V'al titchenu Hashem Elokeinu lenetzach. I'm not afraid of the future. So I heard a marvelous story this week that there was a big rabbi, and it was coming to live in Eretz Yisrael. And this is many, many years ago when they didn't come on El Al. They didn't come on a plane. He came on a ship. I don't know if you remember those days. He came on a ship. That was even before my time coming on. But a lot of people came on ships.
You came on ship.
You come on ships. So from where?
Okay.
I'm talking about from America. It's a good 2-week ride. So they came on ships. So there was a big rabbi on the ship, and as they're getting close to Eretz Yisrael, there's this elderly lady standing next to him. He struck up a conversation with her. He asked her, "Where are you going?" He said, "Oh, I'm moving to Eretz Yisrael. He says, "Where are you going to live?" "I don't know." Do you have any relatives there? I have a nephew, a slightly distant nephew, and I'm sure that once I find him, he'll help me out. And we'll figure something out. You know where he lives? No. So what are you going to do when you get off the boat? Lady, what are you going to do when you get off the boat? So she looked at him and she said, "Sonny boy, I'm 92 years old. Hashem has helped me until now. You think he's going to let me down now?" They get right. They dock, and they get off they go to the plank. Get that down onto the dock, and all of a sudden a journalist runs over to the rabbi. He was a very famous rabbi. He runs over to the rabbi and he says, "I want to have an interview with you." This journalist says, "Look, listen. I'm exhausted from the trip. Let me settle in and give me your card, and I'll contact you. You'll contact me. I'll contact you, and we'll have an interview tomorrow or the next day or something like that. So he gets the card, and he looks at the card, and he looks at the name. It's the same name as this lady. He says, 1 minute. He runs over to the lady, says, do you recognize this fellow? That's my nephew. Adheinu razaruna. So how do we work on it? This is what we have to do. Adheinu azaruna rachamecha. You've taken care of us. Your rachamim has been good to me until now. I've been able to manage. Below azavunu chasadecha. You haven't forsaken me. Al tazvenu, right? Adheinu azaruna rachamecha. Below azavnu chasadecha. Al titshenu hashenu elokenu lenetzach. You're not going to let me down now. And that's the preparation that we have for getting ready for Kabbalah Satorah.
So B'Poel, are we eating matzah on Friday?
I'm eating it for breakfast. I'm eating for breakfast like Rabbi Yaakov ended.
On Friday.
On Friday.
On Saturday.
On Friday. Friday. The last time they had it.
Friday morning. Test Yudal.
Yudal.
You're eating it.
Yaakov ended.
Not like Chazanish, not like Rav Steinberg.
I don't make a bracha al achilas matzah.